What does it mean to just be back, General, another year at Rochester?
Yeah, love Rochester. Probably coincidentally, we're always here, and it's the best time of year to be in Western New York. But love the city. It's so welcoming. Everything about it. Already made my way over to Oak Hill one time, so that was good. I reported to camp early. So I'm always. Some people aren't excited to report early. I'm always excited to report early. But no, appreciate St. John Fisher, all the people here. They go out of their way, and they don't have to. There's probably some things that are a nuisance for them, having to, us moving into some of their space and territory. I mean, everyone, the kitchen staff, the people cleaning the rooms, ran into a couple of them this morning, going back through there, the fields, just they're so accommodating, and that makes it fun. I mean, you want to do this. Sean and I are big believers in getting away the bond that forms here, and camp is camp, and camp gets old after a while, but it's fun to be here.
With all the outside noise that seemed to spread around Stefon and everything that happened back in June, we just heard from Steph. He's getting a good headspace. How confident are you everything is all tied up and everybody's focused forward?
Yeah, very confident. Every time we talked about Steph, love Steph. He's a competitor, and I find myself as very competitive too. So he just wants to win, and nothing wrong with that. We all do it different ways, but Steph's in a good spot, I think. And the off season's the off season. We're all going different ways, especially as players. That last game ends, and you don't get to go back and review the film with everyone and see what happened. It's just it's tough. Everyone works hard, starting even before we get here, but it really starts to grind. It's a long grind. Obviously, last season we went through a lot. We don't need to review that, but listen, I was frustrated too. We want to win this thing. We're working hard, and so nobody's walking out of that locker room smiling when you lose like that.
Was it ever a concern? Did it ever reach any concern like that? How it was being blown up?
I don't think so. His agent and I have a great relationship. Adisa and I, we're very transparent with one another, whether we agree or disagree, whether we're working on his contract, all the way back to the day we traded for him in 2020. And so that helps too when you have representation that is good, truthful, honest. And listen, sometimes you have to have honest conversations. You have, if you're arguing with your family or something, sometimes you got to have a meeting and sit down and talk through it. And, whether it's this situation or another, but if everyone's intentions and everyone's heart's in the right place, you can move forward, and that was never in question.
Brandon, how important was the contract extension for you in terms of Terry showing faith in you and Sean moving forward?
Yeah, I'm excited. Fooled Terry for a few more years maybe, but no, it's I'm very appreciative. There's no job that I would want. No job. This is you're always working in life. You start as whether you're an intern or whether you're a coach or a scout, PR guy. I started in PR, but wherever you start, you're always saying, "Man, how do I gain the next thing? What do I need to do? What do I need to learn?" And this is what I want to do. I want to be better at it. But I'm excited to be here. I'm appreciative of Terry and Kim renewing my deal and Sean's deal, and hopefully we can deliver on what we're trying to get done.
As a follow-up, Ron departed a couple weeks ago. How much will that change your role at all with you in terms of getting a new person involved and even some stadium stuff?
Yeah, no, I think Terry put together kind of a group that's going to kind of split things up. You guys know the names between Josh and Catherine and John Roth, and then Terry is going to insert himself a little bit more. I know even yesterday they were in stadium meetings, but we got great staff, great people, and enjoyed working with Ron. Wish him the best, of course. But things change in this business all the time, and so you just have to, roll with those punches. But no, we got a good staff, and I don't think anything from my standpoint. I report directly to Terry anyway, so we already have a lot of open dialogue, and look forward to more years of that.
Brandon,
Go ahead.
Oh, just the impact of losing Nyheim already and everything that happened to him, and then the moves you made to kind of replace him. Do you feel comfortable that that is what you're looking for? And obviously that pass catching back is something you've been looking for. So just losing him and then how to replace him.
Yeah, I mean, that's not, I said I was excited to report to camp. That was the one thing, that we learned last week, unfortunately, with Nyheim. He's a dynamic dual returner and a legit threat. I thought he had a great spring. And, that's the first thing, when I saw Ken Dorsey, said, man, he really had picked up our offense, and we were excited, to use him. Why do people blow me up when I do this? We were really excited to use him in the offense. So it's not like I can, go out and say, hey, here's another Nyheim Hines. He's a dynamic player. You saw his speed, especially on the 2 kickoff returns. And we were excited to get him in the offense, but things happen, and it's unfortunate. He's a great young man. Love who he is. I feel bad for him. Going through this is not what he wanted. It obviously was an accident, and so we're going to support him. He's got to get his surgery. He hasn't done that yet, but we'll hopefully get him rehabbed here, and hopefully 24 is the best to come for him.
Brandon, if we could go around then,
Yes, the goal is to get his surgery done and rehab him, and hopefully he'll be a part going forward.
Brandon, just to go back to Steph for 1 second, this is obviously the first time we've gotten to talk to him since everything went down at mandatory minicamp. And what happened in Minnesota, some of the history came up and the concern that maybe this was maybe starting to repeat itself a little bit here. I guess I'm asking you from where you sit, would you ever have a concern about that happening based on how the trade went down and the driving forces behind it that got him here in the first place? Like, if the offense maybe struggles a little bit or whatever, inevitably it does during the course of a long season, are you concerned about this kind of flaring back up again, or do you think it's resolved?
Yeah, I think it's resolved, Adam. I mean, listen, if we're losing game, Steph wants to win. Okay, he really, his bottom line is he wants to win. Yes, he wants to contribute. He knows he's a talented player. But if we're struggling and he feels there's something, he's gonna voice it. That's who he is. I'm not trying to change that part of it. He works very hard. You guys see him out here, whether it's one-on-ones, whatever it is. When he's out here, he's competing his butt off. And so, I can't predict anything, but I'm not worried about it. I'm not laying awake at night going, oh, is something about to happen or anything like that. I think we're in a great spot. And listen, Steph has voiced before, just like other players have frustration. Hey, we're not doing this, or why 2 games in a row if we only scored 20 points or whatever's happened. I mean, again, we went through some frustrating times. 2021, offensively, we finished that year strong, but we went through some ups and downs. That game at Jacksonville, and there was a couple other games where we found ways to win, but it wasn't all pretty. We weren't gelling. Fortunately, we got hot late in that season, especially at that New England game. So there's been other times where other guys have said, hey, this has got to change. So as long as everyone's heart is in the right place, and I know his is, I have no doubt about that. I'm not worried.
Hey, Brandon, from a business side with Nyheim, what's the process moving forward in terms of his contract? Are there any things that need to be worked out and decided on that front business-wise? Yeah,
I mean, John, I get the question. I'm not going to get into it. We'll handle that with him. But Nyheim and I have had great conversations about it as late as today and yesterday, and even last week when we found out the verdict of the injury. But beyond going into the contract and how it works, we're going to keep that internal.
From back at Combine, you talked about your confidence in Sean if he wanted to move into that role of defensive coordinator. So from that point to now, when he's getting into camp, you see any difference in him, the way he operates? Do you see anything that he's doing differently?
See, he's got to take 2 hats to practice. He's got one without the headset and one with the headset. I'm like, he's going to have his own hat guy for game day. But no, I think Sean's excited. Like anything, it's how he got the job. Here he was such a good play caller for us in Carolina and was a big part of our success and had a lot of defensive success there. And so I'm excited to see his energy. I'm excited to see the little, we're not going to have I'm sure a drastic change on philosophy or anything like that, but everyone's got their own nuance to how you're going to do something. anytime you got a different play caller on either side of the ball. So I'm excited about his energy, who he is. He's a sharp mind, and I think I think he'll do really good for us.
Brandon, Christian Benford is a guy who's working his way back from injury last season. Day one of camp, he's already making plays. It seems like he's just always been that consistent guy on the field, even though he was a later round pick. What have you seen out of him as he's starting to be a lot healthier?
Yeah, Christian's just that guy. You don't hear about him. You don't hear him. He's might be the quietest guy in our building, staff included. Like he just shows up. He works. You don't even know he's working. But the game comes really easy to him from a natural standpoint. And as coaches are teaching things, some guys have to rep it. Some things just naturally fall in place for certain players at certain positions. And, you know, Maddie, what I would say about Christian, his instincts are one of his best traits. And you can't teach it. You either got it or you don't. And so that helps him. He's going into year 2. He's still learning the defense, learning how it all comes together. But when he doesn't know things that happen after the ball snap, that's when instincts take over. The coach can't stop and call timeout and say, hey, hold on, move over here. It's just that instinctual feel. They're giving you a look that was not coached that week, and how do you react? And he's just a natural at doing that, and he's got great ball skills, just great feel, and a natural confidence going into year 2 that I see. And you're right, he made a play today. Again, instincts and ball skills.
Brandon, staying at cornerback 2, you know, Kyer, can you pinpoint one maybe reason why he hasn't maybe ascended to that spot right now going into his second season, and why that's still something he's competing for?
Well, Kyer, like I said earlier, Kyer is still a young player. He's still learning. He's still growing. This is a total different system than he played in. You know, we talked about it last year. Christian probably played, even though it was a lower level of football, he probably played in more similar scheme than what we're playing. And so Kyer is a very talented player. He's a hard worker, and he is still working his way, but it's year 2. And we've seen many players in this league, maybe they didn't thrive year 1, but he's still an ascending guy. He's competing. And you know us here, we don't just hand a spot out because of what we paid you or where we drafted you. And that wouldn't be good for Kyer either. So he has every chance to come out and win a starting job, and we're going to support it just like Christian does, just like Dane, all these guys. You know, Trey wants to get back out there and show that he's the Trey White of old. He's in a great headspace too. So that's what it is. We're day 1 of camp. There's going to be a lot of ups and downs for a lot of players, and so just looking forward to. That's one of the battles I'm looking forward to watching is all these corners.
Brandon, the league is up to double-digit players suspended for gambling. How big of a concern is that? How can you educate your young players especially?
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's just so easy. You pick up a phone and you can gamble on pretty much anything, and so it is hard. And what are the rules? They're gray. We're trying to do our best to educate our guys, and so I'm glad that to this point we haven't had any incidents, but I know it's not going. Nobody's going to intentionally do things, but the rules are tough, and there's a lot of various rules whether you're whether it's a work trip or not a work trip, and all those things. So we're trying to do the best we can to make sure everyone understands what they are, and hopefully we can keep our guys from violating that policy.
What's your timeline on Vaughn?
On Vaughn, just day to day right now. From that standpoint, John, he's doing well. I know Vaughn didn't want to start on PUP, but we knew PUP for a long time, but that's the competitor in him. We want to make sure he's ready for the long haul. We don't want to rush him too much, but he's in a great headspace. He's torn an ACL before. He's a genetic freak, to be honest with you. He really is. So I can't give you a day or anything like that. We're just going to take it. Our docs did not do his surgery either, so he'll continue to go back to Dr. Cooper, who did it, and get that final clearance to say where he's at. But he's doing great. He's hit all his markers. To this point, there's been no setbacks.
Just when you say day to day, is there an expectation that he could be cleared before the start of the season?
I don't know either way yet. To that point, we haven't decided, because once you start feeling like you're ramping up and if you're going to take him off PUP, you're feeling like, hey, this guy's going to play in the first 3 or 4 weeks of the season. So we want to be smart with that. If we don't feel like, hey, he's going to be ready until, game 4, game 5, game 6, then that helps us save a roster spot. So, him and Jordan Phillips kind of fall into that category of guys that are still rehabbing, still working their way back, and no determination yet whether they would be off of PUP by week 1.
You mentioned those camp battles earlier, Brandon, in regards to Kyer. Middle linebacker seems like it's the one that kind of jumps off the page. If you could maybe address that position, and then maybe are there any other particular positions that you're most interested in watching this summer?
Yeah, I mean, got a lot of young guys at the Mike linebacker position, Jay. Same thing as the corners. Like, we're going to try and give these guys all a chance. This is a position we saw them in the spring in shorts and T-shirts. You're kind of thudding up, but this is a position you got to make the tackle. And so until we can get those pads on and see these guys in 9-on-7 drills, whatever we do from live scrimmages and then the games are going to be big from that standpoint. And it'll be mentally too who can handle everything. That's the quarterback of the defense. And in a perfect world, that guy's calling the defense. Doesn't have to happen, but so it'll all go in there. I can't say that there's a leader in the clubhouse or anything. These guys are all going to get their opportunities through the preseason, and I'm sure at some point Sean's going to want to say, hey, let's narrow this down so that we can have our starter running the reps with the full the number 1 defense at least for 1 or 2 preseason games.
Brandon, what are your thoughts on Don Kincaid performance today?
I think Dalton's done a good job so far. I mean, he's a rookie, so he's a young guy. He's still learning. We just talked about Kyer. A lot to learn, still picking up the offense. Things are still being installed for him. But he's a hard worker. I know he's been in his playbook. And so excited about who he is and how hard he's working. And I know every day he'll continue to work to get better. And so we'll just kind of see where it goes with him.
Is Tyler Medikevich in the Jordan Phillips, Von Miller kind of area where you don't know, or you expect him off there sooner?
Yeah, unless he has a setback, I expect him to be ready prior to the start of the season, so we'd get him off.
What did you see from Jace Sternberger and Evans to bring them in?
Yeah, I mean, those guys, we worked those guys out on whatever day that was, Monday. I thought both those guys stood out athletically, and you saw. We like Jace, coming out as well in that draft. He was in Dawson's draft, and we thought he did some good things. He young guy. It didn't work out in Green Bay, but you saw some things. He played in the USFL this year. Athletically, and I saw him at least a couple plays where he adjusted on balls back in individual periods. So, he's a guy that you still see the athletic ability. Let's get him in here. Let's see if he can mentally, get into the playbook and have a shot. And then Evans he's a speed guy. He's had a few injuries that kind of set him back at the start of his career. Left Tennessee, went to Chicago last year, but smart kid. Ken Dorsey was around him for just a second before he came up here when he was at App State, and so brought him in, and he'll add a little. He brings a little juice. Obviously, losing Nyheim, you lose some speed. Not that he has Nyheim's speed, but he's another guy that can catch it out of the backfield and has a home run juice ability. We'll give him an opportunity to see how he does.
Hey, Brandon, when you take a look at the kickoff rules changes with the fair catch, more and more rules going into increased safety, but maybe decrease the number of special teams plays. Does that make an impact on how you look at the back of your roster, whether or not you need to de-emphasize special teams and you can focus more on offensive, defensive guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it will be to determine, if you just take Nyheim, our plan would have been to return a lot of those because I think he's a top 5 returner. Now it'll be who's going to win that job as a returner, and do we think it's advantageous to use the fair catch rule, or do we feel like we've got a guy that we can have some opportunities to take it the distance or get it well past the 25. So those are the decisions we'll make. We believe in special teams a lot here, and our plan was to attack these kickoff returns, but with Nyheim's injury, that's to be determined.
Hey, Brandon, kind of a broader topic, but with the running back market, whether it be long-term extensions or getting a free agent contract more than a year, why do you think it hit such a wall this offseason?
I don't know. You talking about just the running backs?
Just running backs.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's been a weird market. You've seen some guys get paid, whether it was McCaffrey, Kamara, some of those guys, Derrick Henry, but then there's been some guys that have not, and maybe it's again, I don't know, but maybe some of these other positions, the money's gone up here, and maybe guys feel like they're bringing as much or more value from their position. The game has changed a lot too, though. It's become much more of a passing league than it was when you're handing the ball to Walter Payton and Barry Sanders and Emmitt Smith and all those guys. So the game has evolved for a lot of reasons, and expected points, when you got a quarterback throwing the ball, you're not going to take it out of his hands but so much. So every team's got its own thing. I don't have a particular reason to point to it. Part of the reason too is probably some of these guys have, it's come to the franchise tags numbers seem to have come down at running back because there's not been enough extensions signed to kind of raise that, and it's I think that's been part of the problem too.
Right. Overall last season, every football team wants to be playing their best football at the end of the season. That didn't happen to you guys last year. Did you talk at all about why that is and how that could be corrected for this season?
Yeah, I think, again, we talked about the year before and we didn't do anything any different. Every team, and this is where it really starts. It starts in the offseason a little bit, but every team is its own unique team, its own bond. And, you're going to hit adversity. We hit it in 21. We were doing that win a game, lose a game, win a game, lose a game. And it was like, man, if we don't get going now, I think New England was going to win that division. And we got it going. We got it flipped. It's not as easy as saying, hey, let's go flip the switch. It's guys are working hard, but sometimes it's just not clicking, or you just can't find your rhythm. Last season was a unique season that I've never seen so much happen to one team, one city, everything. And I don't know if it was the weight of all that. I don't know if guys were out of gas. I don't know if some guys were still here and other guys were just to play. I don't have a great answer, but I think we've had enough success. I think we've played some good football down the stretch. I'm kind of treating last season like a little bit of an anomaly.